Okay. Can you all hear me? Awesome. Thank you all for coming to my session. It's on mastering Drupal's site building features. My name is Amani Mansour. I'm currently a technical architect at Debug Academy. I've been working in Drupal for about 10 years now, doing both back-end and front-end development. I'm excited to talk about site building because I think it's a great talk for both non-developers and developers. I think if you're not a developer or you're just getting started in Drupal, it's a great way to understand Drupal as a content management system and what it can do out of the box. And I think if you're a developer, I know for myself, being a good site builder makes you a more efficient and productive developer because you know what you can do with Drupal and you know what you need to do with custom code. So we're all probably familiar with what Drupal is, but just as a reminder, Drupal is an open source, highly scalable content management system. So this means that Drupal is free to use, it's created and maintained by the public. It's used to build high traffic websites. So organizations like NBC, Twitter, Harvard, Doctors Without Borders, they all use Drupal. It's very popular in the government and education sectors as well. And then it's also a content management system. So it does a lot of the website heavy lifting so that site owners can focus on creating the content that they want to share. And when we talk about Drupal site building, we're referring to the ability to build your website using Drupal's user interface. It's about utilizing Drupal core's out-of-the-box features to build your website without having to write custom code. So what makes Drupal a flexible content management system? One of the very powerful things about Drupal is that it comes with structured data out of the box. So when you create content in Drupal, you're not creating one big blob of text. Your content is organized into fields, and each piece of data serves a purpose. So to better understand this, I have a Drupal website installed using the Umami Demo Food Magazine. So it's a recipe website. If we click on recipes, you'll see that we have a listing of recipes. I'll go ahead and click on this recipe here, and we can take a look at it. So you can see on this page, we have all the information related to the recipe. Its name, description, preparation time, cooking time, directions, and ingredients. And it may seem like it's, just one big blob of content, but if we edit this page, you can see how on the back end it's organized into fields. So the recipe name is coming from a recipe name field. The preparation time is coming from the preparation time field. So all your content is organized into fields, and this data comes together to build your page. And this is really powerful because if we look at this recipe listing, we see we have this same recipe as this one. But here you're seeing all the field data, whereas here you're seeing the partial field data. But this piece of content and this piece of content are coming from the same source. So you're creating your content one time, but it can be reused throughout your website. So the recipe name here and the recipe name here is coming from that same recipe field name. And so that's what makes Drupal flexible, is because there's structured data on the back end, you have the ability to reuse your content throughout your website. Okay, so entities are your basic building blocks of data in Drupal. When we were looking at the recipe page, we were looking at an entity. You have entity types. They are fieldable, so you can add fields to them. And your entity types serve as a blueprint for creating your entities. So your entities are the foundation of Drupal structured content. And there are different types of entities with Drupal, and they each serve a different purpose. Your nodes are your primary website content. The recipe page was a node. Your media is used for videos, images, documents. Taxonomy is used for categorizing your content. Your users are the user accounts used for logging into the site. and your blocks are content that can be placed in specific regions of your page. This is a list of field types that you can add to your entity types. For our recipe entity, there was a preparation time field and a cooking time field. Those were both using the integer field type. For a user entity, it would be useful to have an email field type. I do want to highlight the reference field type because this allows you to reference another entity type. So on your recipe entity, there was an image, and we know media is an entity type in Drupal. So you can have an entity reference field on your recipe entity that references the media entity type, and you would specify for it to reference the image media type. You can also use this field to reference taxonomy entities so that you can organize your recipes. So there was a recipe category field, which was an entity reference to the recipe category taxonomy vocabulary. And then you can organize your recipes based on whether it's a main course, a dessert, a snack, appetizer, things like that. So like I said, your entity types serve as a blueprint for creating your entities. Nodes are a type of entity. Your content types are the entity type that serve as a blueprint for creating your nodes. You can have multiple content types on your website. You can create your own content types. So for the recipe website, a recipe content type was created. And as a site builder, you have to think through the types of fields that are necessary to build out your recipe nodes. So like, what information do you want to present to the end user? So you think through like, well, they need to know the recipe name, they need to know the ingredient list, the directions, the preparation time, cooking time, things like that. So like I mentioned, taxonomy is used for organizing your content. So if you have a blog travel website and you're writing blog posts about where you've been traveling in the world, you may want to organize your content based off of geographic location. So you would create a taxonomy vocabulary called geographic location. It can have taxonomy terms such as Asia, Europe, North America, South America. And then on your blog content type, you would add an entity reference field to the taxonomy entity, and then you can specify which vocabulary to reference. So you would reference the geographic location vocabulary. And then every time you create a blog post, you can pick the appropriate term. So if you're writing a blog post about France, you would select Europe as a term. The reason it's useful to categorize and organize your content in this way is because you can leverage these relationships to create dynamic parts of your website. So all the blog posts that are tagged with the term Asia, they have a relationship together, and all the blog posts tagged with the term Europe have a relationship together. And then you can leverage this relationship. So if you only want a page about blog posts that are about Asia, you can do that. You can create a dynamic list of only blog posts that talk about Asia. So in a nutshell, structured data is important because it gives you the flexibility to reuse your content, to display your content in different presentation formats, to organize your content via taxonomy terms, and then to create dynamic lists of content. So in order to display your content in different presentation formats, you would use view modes. Examples of view modes are full content, so that's the default view showing all or most fields. So the recipe page we were looking at that had the ingredient list and directions, that was the full content view of that page. Teaser is a short summary, often used in lists. Your card is a partial display of fields, so it might include, the title, an image, and maybe a short description. And that's also used in lists or blocks. And then you can create your own view modes and decide what content data you want to have displayed in that particular view mode. So we saw here that I had mentioned that, this recipe and this were the same. So they're being displayed in a different presentation format. If we go to structure, and then you can go to content types, you can see the content types on this site. So by default, Drupal comes with an article and basic page, and then this recipe content type was created. For your content type, it's the manage display, where you get to control how your content displays to the end user. So if we go to the card display, so this is a view mode that's being used for the recipe entity. You can see that it has the difficulty field and media image field enabled, and all the rest of the fields are disabled. So this view mode is being used in this recipe listing. By default, with all view modes, the title will display from the entity. So we have the title, difficulty level, and then the image. So if we wanted to change the display, we can disable this field and click Save. And so now everywhere that the card view mode is used for recipes will now have, it will remove the difficulty field. We can go back and enable it if we want, just to show, and then you have options where you can hide the label or leave it. I think we can do it as inline. And now we have it back. So the reason why view modes are so useful is because it lets you standardize your content throughout your website. So all recipes that use the card display mode will all look the same. They're very easy to configure and edit, and it's also very easy to update. So if you change your mind and you want to disable a field or enable a field, it's very easy to do. When I disabled the difficulty field, it just took a few seconds, but it was reflected site-wide. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the Views module. The Views module, it comes with Drupal core out of the box, so it's nothing that you need to install. But this allows you to create dynamic lists of content that are filterable, searchable, and sortable. So it's used to list entities like your nodes, users, media. A very popular use case would be to create a dynamic list of your nodes. These are examples of views, a list of press briefings, a list of training courses. And then this is what the views configuration form looks like. So this is where you would specify the criteria that determines what content items are included in your list. So we'll go at step by step. So the first step would be to select the format of your list. You can do an unformatted list, an HTML list, which is an ordered list. You could do a table format, or a grid, which would allow you to specify, oh, I want a 2-column grid layout, or I want a 3-column grid layout, things like that. Then you would choose which of the entity's fields to display. So if you're doing a list of recipes, you can add the recipe name field, you could add the image field. And again, this is why structured data is so important, because when we create our dynamic list, we have access to that field data, so we get to pick and choose what we want to render. We're not forced to render the entire data associated with an entity. You can pick and choose what parts you want. And then next is the filter section. So this is where you can limit the items displayed in the view. So some popular filters would be, you can say published, and that's set equal to true, so only published content displays. If you have a list of nodes but you want to limit it to just your recipe nodes, then you can add content type as a filter, and it gives you a list of the content types available on your website, and you can check the box next to the one you want. So in this case, we would select recipe, and then only your recipe nodes will display. You also have the option to expose your filter. So you can let the end user filter the list. And you can use fields on your entity as the filter. So for our recipe nodes, we have a difficulty level field that has the options easy, medium, or hard. So you can add that field as a filter and then select the checkbox expose this filter to visitors. And then now it's available for the end user to filter. So you're giving them a list of all the recipes, but then they have a filter so they can filter to just easy recipes or hard recipes. So this is an example of a view with exposed filters. We can also take a look at our website. So this is a recipe listing. To look at views, you would go to Structure, Views, and then I'll search for the recipe. Click Edit. Okay, so you can see the format is responsive grid. The maximum number of columns is 4. And we can see, well, I have to reduce the zoom in, but yeah, it's a 4-column list. And then for the filter criteria, published is equal to yes. Content type is recipe, so we know this is a listing of recipes. The third filter is related to translation because this demo website has English and Spanish, so we don't need to worry about that right now. But one thing I want to highlight is you can see in our field section, it's empty. So you have the option in your view to show fields or select content. And when you select content, you can select the view mode. So you don't have to specify which fields in your view. If you already have a view mode and you know you want your content to display in that format, you can select your view mode. So it's just another way that view modes become useful. So yeah, it's a dynamic list because in your view, you're specifying criteria. And when you create new content after doing this, if it matches the criteria of the view, then automatically it gets added to the list. So if we create a recipe and publish it, then it will be added to that recipe listing automatically. There's nothing we have to do on our end. So now I'm going to talk about regions. Your regions are sections of your web page and they're specified per theme. Generally with themes, you'll have a header region, footer, sidebar, content region. They can be more granular where you have like sidebar first, sidebar second, or footer column 1, footer column 2. But essentially, you have regions of your website and you can place blocks in these specific regions. And you also have the ability to create custom blocks. And you can place these custom blocks in regions and you can specify what pages your block should display on. So you have the option to specify based off of content type. So you could say this should only display on recipe pages or only on article pages. You can provide a list of URLs to say only display on these pages. You can also specify which users it should display for. So if it should display for users with a particular user role, you can do that. So this is an example of a custom block. Just like with your content types, you have block types. So you can create your own block type. You can add fields to it, and then it will serve as a blueprint for creating your blocks. And then you can choose what to do with those blocks, like what region of the page they should be in. So in order to see the regions, you would go to Structure, Block Layout. So we could see we have a pre-header region, a header region. There's many more. This is our content region. And then we have a footer region and a bottom region. And this bottom region has the umami disclaimer. So if we scroll down, this would be our footer, or wait, no, I think this is the footer. This is the bottom, which has the disclaimer. And we can even see here, if we go to configure block, you could also, via the block layout, click configure. You couldn't edit the block, which we'll do later. But yeah, so this umami disclaimer block, you can tell it's not restricted, so it will show up on all pages. But if we wanted to, we can show for a list of pages. We can hide for a list of pages. You can specify which content type a block should display on. And then if we want to edit the block, we can see what it looks like. So it has a disclaimer and it has copyright, which matches with what this has down here. And one other thing I think is useful, if we go to structure, block types, you can see disclaimer block is a block type. If we click on manage fields, it has a copyright field, a disclaimer field. These are both using the text formatted field type. So, you know, as a site builder, you can create your own block type with the fields. And then to place a block, you would click place a block. I'm not going to have it display the title, but I will restrict it. So if you use something like front, this should only display on the home page. So I'll click save and save blocks. And then if I refresh this, oh, this isn't the home page. Let's go here. So now we can see it displaying twice. Whereas on the other page, because it wasn't the home page, it did not display twice. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about Layout Builder. Layout Builder is really cool because it allows you to control the layouts for your entities. So it's an intuitive drag and drop interface. It gives you greater layout freedom because you can mix and match different layout sections. So you can have a 1-column layout, then a 2-column underneath, things like that. And then you can drag and drop the fields associated with your entity or blocks that you've created. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to control the content layout of your entities. And here's our recipe page. So if I look here, I can tell this recipe entity in the full content display is using the layout builder because we have this layout tab. But you can also see it if I go to our full content display for our recipe content type. We can see here the checkbox for use layout builder is enabled. And then we also have this checkbox that says allow each content item to have its layout customized. So when I click manage layout here, that's controlling the layout for all recipe entities using the full content view mode. What this checkbox does is that it gives you the flexibility. If you want to change the layout for one particular recipe, you can do that. And it enables this layout tab here. And so when I click here, I would only be changing the layout for this recipe page, not all of them. But when I click here, this is the layout for all recipe entities. So you can see it has some like preview content. So if I click add section, these are the types of layout sections available. So it goes all the way from 1 to 4 column, and then you have this pretty cool 1+4 grid, which is being used here. This is using the 2-column layout. If we configure this section, you can see that it gives you options in terms of column widths. You could do 50-50, 33-67%, 25-75%, and like vice versa. And then if you click to add a block, You can see you have your content blocks, you have the content fields associated with your entity that you can add. So it just makes it very easy to control your entity's layout. Okay, so everything that I've talked about up until this point has applied to both Drupal core and Drupal CMS. Drupal CMS was released back in January of this year, so it's still fairly recent, but it's intended to be the gold standard for no-code website building. So it's very much built with site builders in mind, to give site builders the ability to build a website, like literally only having to use site building features. So with Drupal CMS, it has a very welcoming dashboard for editors. It's much more intuitive and user-friendly in terms of like figuring out where you need to go to create your content, or to create your entity types, or to add users to your website. It also has built-in SEO and artificial intelligence tools. And with AI, it's not just for helping with content creation, but it's also to help build your site. So they are building AI, I forgot what it's not called AI bots, but there's a specific term, but they're supposed to, agents, yes, AI agents, thank you. And each agent can do a particular task. So it might be that there's an AI agent that can create a content type, or that can add a field to a content type, things like that. And then also there's recipes. So recipes are curated sets of functionality. So it could be configuration, or it could include content as well. But it's supposed to help you be a faster site builder. It gives you a head start because for example, there may be a blog recipe, and it will, if you enable it, it'll give you the blog content type, a vocabulary named tags for organizing your blog posts, and a views for listing your posts. And then it also, because I did install it, it does have a basic page which serves as a landing page for your blog listing, and it has a test blog post node created. So just by enabling that, which takes a few seconds, you already have a head start in building your blog website. And then the plan is that they're going to release Experience Builder later this year, so it's not available now, but it's essentially a way more flexible layout builder. You'll be able to control all regions of your page. So something I should mention with Layout Builder is you're controlling the content region of your page. If you wanted to add a block to the header or footer region, you would do it via the block layout. In Drupal CMS, when they release Experience Builder, you're controlling the whole web page. So if you want to add a block to the header or footer region, you can do it. Also, if you're a casual developer, they're going to allow for you to write custom CSS and JavaScript, and you can create essentially like code components and then add them to your page. There's been a lot of talks on Experience Builder. It was also mentioned in the Dries note. So I would recommend watching those if you haven't already, just because seeing it in action is way different than what I can speak to. It's very, very cool. And then if you want to try Drupal CMS in a very easy and very fast way, the joke among my team is last night we were saying, oh, using Drupito, I can launch a website just on the elevator ride to my floor. And so I actually tried to do that, and I started from the very beginning where I didn't even have like Chrome open, so I had to open it and create an account, but I was able to spin up a Drupal CMS site. So Drupito is something that Debug Academy has launched as a tool. You can use it to spin up a Drupal CMS site without technical expertise, just with the click of a button. You can spin up the site. There is a free trial going on right now, so feel free to use it and to just like spend time exploring Drupal CMS. It will provide automatic upgrades and security updates, so you don't have to worry when there's a new version of Drupal CMS, Drupito will take care of that. And it's for long-term hosting for site builders. And it's going to be very affordable. So if you do have a website that you want to launch and have hosted, it will only be about $10 a month. So thank you guys. I really appreciate you coming, especially this is the last session. And I hope it was valuable information. So feel free to ask questions. Yes.
By any chance, can you give an example of something that the outcome of a recipe?
Sure. So the question is, can you give an example of the outcome of a recipe? So in terms of outcome, like what do you mean? Oh, sorry. I was thinking recipe, because we had the recipe website. I was like, I mean, if you put the ingredients together, you'll make a recipe. You mean recipe in terms of Drupal. Okay. So yeah, so like I had mentioned a blog recipe. It comes with the blog content type, a blog listing. So it creates the views for you. That creates a dynamic list of your blog nodes. It creates the blog content type for you. So you have a content type to create your blog pages. So it comes with like the configuration already done for you.
Is the builder able to select that from a drop-down list or something?
Yeah, so in Drupal CMS it has a list, and like you literally just click install. Also, when you spin up your site, it gives you the option here. These are like recipes that it expects a lot of people to use. So you can select one of these and spin up your site already with a recipe enabled. But if you skip this step, you can also install it later on. Like it's very easy. It's like a nice list and you just click install on whatever you want. Are there any other questions? Yes.
So Drupal core comes with a lot of modules, but not all of them are enabled by default. Is that true? Like,
Yeah, that is true.
can you think of like some modules that are part of core that like, oh, we always need those. They're just so popular. Like if I'm building a site, what's one that I'm probably really gonna want? Web form, yeah.
Well, Drupal CMS actually has a list that comes with it, and that's kind of what you're asking. Like
Right.
that list is kind of it.
Okay.
Like SEO.
Yeah, like Path Auto.
Path auto, sure.
I feel like they would already have views module installed, but like if they didn't, I would say that one for sure. But yeah, so Path Auto if you want like nice paths for your entities. Does anyone else think of anything? I'm trying to think what's not installed that.
In core, most of the ones you want are already enabled. So there's a lot that are disabled, but for the most part, I think what you might, an extension or add-on to your question might be, what modules do all sites need? A lot of those don't come with core. You have to also download them. So like the redirect module, you have to download it to get it. And there's a bunch of other modules like that. Drupal CMS is Drupal core plus a bunch of modules. So if you use that as your starting point, then you have most of the modules you're asking about, and they'll be downloaded with Drupal CMS. Yeah, but the one with Drupal core, I think they're pretty much almost all enabled, the ones that you would want enabled, and then you'd want more from Contrib.
Yeah, so just the comment was that with Drupal core, most of them that you would want are already enabled. If you wanted additional ones, you would have to download it. But with Drupal CMS, it comes with a lot of the modules that you would want, and you can pick and choose which to enable if they're not already enabled. I did that for the recording. Sorry. Any other questions? Yes.
If you're spinning up a new site, is there any reason not to go with Drupal CMS, in your opinion, as opposed to like Drupal 11?
Right. So the question is, if you're spinning up a site, is there a reason to not go with Drupal CMS? It honestly comes down to whether if you feel that you're going to need to write custom code for the back end. You know, if there aren't contributed modules, my bad, that do the functionality that you're going to want for your site. So if you're doing a blog website, yes, I would say go with Drupal CMS. If you're like more focused, like an informational website, go with Drupal CMS. But if you want your website to have custom functionality, you may need to go with Drupal 11 because there's a chance you'll need to write custom code for it.
I would say also not all hosting providers are supporting Drupal CMS yet either.
So in that case, you would just go with Drupito. Any other questions? All right. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all attending.